Welcome back to AI Verdict, the place where we do all the heavy research so you don't have to. Everyone is talking about Elon Musk's new AI venture, Macrohard. The promise? A company run entirely by AI. But what's really going on here? Is this the future, or is it just the biggest hype train in tech history? Today, we're going to dig in and find out.
To get to the truth, I've dug through everything. The USPTO filings, the internal reorganization documents, the academic AI benchmarks. We are going to separate what's real from what's just, well, science fiction. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, what is Macrohard supposed to be? Well, the core claim is honestly pretty radical. This isn't just another startup. It's an attempt to build something the world has literally never seen before.
Yeah, let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about giving AI tools to human employees to make them work faster. The actual goal here is to create a company that is fundamentally run by an AI. And they're not being shy about their target either. They want to simulate and replicate the operations of a software giant like Microsoft. So they aren't just building an app, they're trying to build an entirely new kind of company. The big question is, can they actually pull it off?
And look, this isn't just some marketing slogan. This exact phrase, modeling entire corporations, comes directly from their official trademark filing with the US government. This is their stated legal intent, right there in black and white for anyone to see. So is this just a wild idea scribbled on a legal form? Not a chance. When you actually follow the paper trail, it tells a story of a real project with very serious resources and some serious momentum. Let's look at the evidence. Check out this timeline. It all starts in August 2025 with the trademark filing. Pretty standard. But by December, the legal language gets way more specific, calling out agentic AI and code generation. That same month, a facility name gets linked to the project, hinting at a massive build-out of computing power. Then, February 2026 hits, and things go into overdrive. First, SpaceX acquires xAI, which completely changes the resource game. And then, an internal meeting creates a dedicated team just for Macrohard. This is not a side hustle. It's a full-on, heavily funded mission.
But to have even a remote chance of success, Macrohard has to do something completely different. Why? Because you have to understand the absolutely colossal scale of their target. We're talking about a 50-year-old software empire. Let's just start here. At 72% market share, Windows is basically the air that most of the world's computers breathe. That's a level of entrenchment that is just almost impossible to attack head-on. And then there's the money. $245 billion in 1 year. That's not just a rainy day fund. That's a financial fortress built over decades of customer trust and, let's be honest, some incredibly powerful platform lock-in. And you can bet Microsoft isn't just sitting around watching this happen. They're already integrating their own AI, Copilot, directly into the daily lives of over 400 million paying customers. They're basically fortifying their walls before the battle has even begun. All right, so we have the grand ambition and the Goliath of a competitor. But now it's time to pump the brakes and ask the most critical question of all. Can the AI we have today actually do any of this? Let's check the data.
This chart says it all, really. On a benchmark like SW Bench, which tests how well AI can solve real-world coding problems from GitHub, the absolute best models still fail more than half the time. A human engineer, on the other hand, gets it right over 80% of the time. The potential is there, for sure, but the reliability just isn't. And here's the kicker. It's not just about getting it right. Right now, for these complex tasks, AI agents are incredibly slow, like 10 to 100 times slower than a person. And they can cost thousands of dollars in compute time to do what one skilled engineer could knock out in a few hours. The economics just aren't there. Yet.
So, because of these very real, very big limitations, the story starts to change. The most likely path forward isn't the dramatic, hostile takeover scenario you might be imagining. It's actually something way more subtle, and frankly, way more interesting. Instead of replacing Microsoft, the real opportunity is to build an agentic automation layer that sits on top of existing software. Think of it less like a whole new operating system and more like a super smart layer that automates all the tedious, repetitive work, letting humans focus on strategy and creativity. And this is where it gets really revolutionary. Forget about replacing Microsoft Office. The real game changer would be automating the process of building software itself. If Macrohard can automate even 50 to 70% of development, testing, and QA, well, they won't just be building a new product. They'll be fundamentally rewriting the economic rules for the entire tech industry. Finally, this fight won't just be about code. It's going to be fought on two other massive battlegrounds: navigating government regulations and, of course, having the most raw computing power.
On one side, you've got Microsoft, a giant tangled in a web of global regulations and antitrust history. On the other, you have Macrohard, which can move fast because it has no regulatory baggage. But that's a double-edged sword. Big enterprise customers want predictability and compliance, not just speed.
And on the hardware side, it's a classic matchup. Microsoft's Azure is like a sprawling, reliable power grid built for enterprise stability. xAI's Colossus supercomputer, on the other hand, is like a dedicated nuclear reactor, purpose-built for one thing and one thing only, powering the AI revolution as fast as humanly possible with no legacy systems to worry about.
So, when you weigh the incredible ambition against the sobering reality, when you look at the paper trail and the tech benchmarks, what's the real takeaway here? What's the bottom line?
Look, Macrohard probably isn't going to replace Microsoft. Not anytime soon. The network effects and enterprise trust are just too powerful. What's way more likely is that this whole experiment will force a massive shift for everyone. We are watching the birth of a new category of AI-native companies, built from the ground up around this new way of working. This isn't just about a new product, it's a whole new species of company.
And that really brings us to the final, most important thought. Maybe the question we should be asking isn't, will AI replace Microsoft, but rather, how will AI change what it even means to be a software company? Now that is a much bigger question, and the answer is going to define the next decade of tech. If you found this deep dive valuable, let me know in the comments what part of this you find most fascinating, and make sure you subscribe to AI Verdict. I'll see you in the next one.